PREIshare is the latest startup in the real estate syndication space.
Our mission is to create transparency, provide liquidity, and offer market intelligence that can help you succeed at a higher level.
To get involved, join our PREIshare sponsored Facebook group.
Together, we can raise the standard.
Happy Thursday. Welcome back to another live video with Christion and I for the Fundication Show. We're coming to you this week to talk about preferred equity and top-off services. Christion, hello from 3,000 miles away.
Hey, I'm glad you got the memo about the shirt, even though we're in different states. Good to see you here, Caloni.
I don't think we've ever shown up in the studio matching, so who knows? Maybe that's
not
the future. Yeah. Well, for those of you that may be new tuning in here, Christion and I are with PREIshare. We're partners, and we have some other great partners too in PREIshare, and we play in the real estate syndication space. We do a lot of different things. Like I had mentioned before, we have the Fundication Show that we were just talking about. We have our custom-built studio in Salt Lake City, Utah that we just finished, and we are coming today to specifically talk about some financial services that we're offering, and those are top-off services and preferred equity. And before we get started, if you are watching this live, let us know in the chat from whichever platform you're watching on, if you're watching the live video, if you're watching the replay, and also where you're tuning in from. I am currently in Florida, and Christion is currently in Utah, and so I'm kind of splitting my time between both of those areas right now. So I'll be back in Utah here shortly. So Christion, let's dive in. Let's dive in and talk about the preferred equity and top-off funding. Let's start with top-off funding. Tell the audience a little bit about what it is and what financial service we have to benefit the market.
Yeah, so from the get-go, when we launched PREIshare, we wanted to make sure that we were aligning the interests of both the syndication sponsor and the passive investor. And the way that we decided to do that was to launch a fund in order to provide financial services to both of those groups. And so we talked last week about how we could buy fractional shares from the passive investor and help them exit early from a syndication. What we're doing for sponsors, in addition to that, because we believe that's a huge benefit to sponsors as well, what we're also doing is we're offering top-off services in Pref equity. And they're very similar, so we won't talk too much about the differences. But to talk about top-off funding, that really is when you're out there doing a raise, and let's say you're going to raise $10 million, and you have $7 million that you're getting from the bank, you have $3 million that you're raising from passive investors through a 506c potentially, and of that $3 million, you might have $2.5 million raised, and you're coming to the end of the term of the the due diligence. You need to finalize your funding. You need to close on the deal essentially, but you don't know where that final money is coming from. What PREIshare will do is, if you're an approved sponsor with us, but which again we have videos about what that means, and you can also go to the PREIshare.com link. We'll put it in there because it's a little bit long for me to say out loud, but if you go to that link, you could find out how to become an approved sponsor. And by doing so, we can actually advance you those funds. And so when you start your raise, send it to us just like you would send it to any of your other investors. We can underwrite the deal, and then we can essentially give you a forward commitment of, hey, if you need this money, this is what's available to you, and these are the terms that it's going to be. And obviously that's going to be weighted on the deal itself. It's going to be weighted on you as a sponsor, but it can get you to the closing table. And the great part about this is we don't want you to leave our expensive money in long term. In fact, it turns into a lot less expensive money because we now become your ally and somewhat your advocate by going out there and helping you to promote what you're doing, especially if it's a 506c, in where you can openly promote your raise. And so if you can openly promote to accredited investors, we could actually bring you on to the Fundication Show and onto lives just like this, help you go out there and find those additional passive investors to fill the rest of that money. And then it's likely in many of these scenarios, we will leave some of our funds in pari passu with the rest of your investors. So once you pay us down to a certain point, you just move us over onto the LP side of the transaction, because we want to be inside the deal. We want to be there with you long term, but we also have a certain yield that we need to make with our money. And so we're going to turn that money more quickly by helping you backfill the money that you needed. Hopefully that all made sense.
Yes. Well, and if it doesn't all make sense, we do have a video up on YouTube right now, and that'll be in the chat also here. So we have a couple team members in the back end of this live video, and they're putting some links in the chat. And so there's going to be a link for the Become an Approved Sponsor, and you can go to that webpage. You can see the benefits of becoming an approved sponsor, such as having access, potentially having access to these types of financial services, being a guest on the Fundication show, and many other benefits. And then you can also schedule a call with our team, with someone on our team, hop on and learn a lot more about what we're doing. And so there's a link directly on the website to schedule a call with us. So, and as you can see on the screen right now, there's the PREIshare.com, become an approved sponsor. So you can go ahead and go there. Specifically though, with what Christion was talking about, we have a video up on YouTube right now, and it talks all about top off funding and preferred equity. And so we can put that in the chat too. And you can go directly there if you want, either maybe just a little bit more of an explanation of what Christion is talking about, or if you just, want to watch another video and you have a couple free minutes on your hands. So Christion, so we have the top off funding and the preferred equity. Now, I know that you have an illustration that you wanted to talk about, and the video that we're also putting in the chat has Christion's in our studio, and he's explaining the graphic and the illustration that he's about to show you. And so, Christion, do you want to bring that up on your screen and explain a little bit about what's going on?
Yeah, before we do, let's just jump in and talk about, so Pref equity, really top off services is a form of Pref equity. But when we talk about Pref equity as a difference, what that really means is if you are further along in your deal, meaning you've already done the raise and you're further along, and you have a capital need of some sort, whether that is that you need to get your debt coverage ratios in line to finalize a refinance with a bank, or whether that is that, construction costs have gone up and you had unexpected remediations of some sort. And so, you have additional costs that you didn't expect. Whatever that is, if you have a deal that is a performing deal, we can also advance those funds so you don't have to do a capital call to your passive investors, which we're starting to hear more and more rumblings about capital calls happening in the market and how much need there is for this. And so if we can step in and have you avoid that capital call, it's likely that you will retain those investors longer term, and they will come back to you on future deals if you don't have to do a cash call, if they don't have to come up with unexpected money. So that's really the difference. They're both act the same. We're going to evaluate them very similar. But in this scenario, let's just talk about what that looks like. So let me pull that up. Hold tight.
While he's doing that, we have two links in the chat right now. We have the Become an Approved Sponsor link that I had just mentioned. It's a page on our website that talks about becoming an approved sponsor. And then someone on our team also put in the YouTube link for the video that goes a little more in depth into what Christion is talking about here on this illustration. Christion, back to you.
Cool. Yeah, so really quickly, in this scenario, we're saying, okay, listen, we like the deal. We like what you're doing. We're willing to advance $500,000 as a forward commitment if you need it for top-off services in this scenario. And we're going to get a 14% preferred equity rate of return. So we need to see a 14% return on that money. And essentially, if you understand the waterfall method, we are going to then slot into that waterfall right underneath debt. So the first people that get paid is debt. Second people that get paid is us. Third group of people that gets paid is your passive investors. And in this scenario, we're saying that they are at 8% is what you have offered as your pref equity to your investors, just standard. And so coming in here, we're willing to leave roughly 20%, well, it is 20% in this scenario, of the money that we advance pari passu with your investors once you get us paid down to that point. And so we essentially advance you the money, you get to the closing table. After you get to the closing table, we help you in going out there and continuing your raise. Now, we're not raising money for you. We're simply giving you platforms where you can raise those funds. So we don't act as a broker dealer. We are not stepping in and taking any type of a return based on the money that we raise. None of those things, because we didn't want to get into the broker dealer situation or some of the other rules and regulations that are in with that. So instead, we're just helping to promote you as a sponsor. And in so doing, we go out there, we help you raise those funds. Let's say in month one, you've got 500,000, but in about 3 months, you're able to raise $200,000. It costs you about $11,000 of what you've paid to us during that time frame. Now, if things really start picking up, so I guess that was 2 months, I apologize. So 2 months, now maybe that third month, you raise that final $100,000. You've paid down 400 of our $500,000, and you've met that requirement for us where we're now willing to move over into the LP slot. Now that month, it costs you another $3,500. But you have to remember, if you look up here, it costs you $14,882 in order to use this preferred equity for a short period of time. But you were going to pay almost $6,000 pari passu with your investors anyway. So if you would have just raised that money on your own, you still would have been paying this money. So your real delta, the extra, so to speak, that you would pay in this scenario is only about $9,000. So when you think about that and you compare it to bridge debt, for example, where they might be paying, you might be caused or charged, multiple points up front and, all kinds of things. And they're going to take a debt position on the property, which may potentially jeopardize, the loan that you're trying to get in place. Like all of these things, we overcome a lot of those challenges, and the real cost to you is minimal as long as you follow through and get those funds paid off quickly. And what we want to do is we want to help you through that process.
There we go. Now we're back. That was a quick illustration. So again, if you want to watch the video where Christion dives into that illustration a little bit more, go to the link, the YouTube link that's in the comment section. So Christion, thanks for sharing that. Appreciate that. And that tells the audience a little bit more about kind of what we're offering, both through our fund and then also, with PREIshare in general. So is there anything else that you wanted to add while we're on the topic?
No, I would just say that if you're in a position where you're going to be doing a raise soon, go get your approval process done. It can be very fast. We've found that it isn't always very fast for people because it really comes down to how quickly you submit all the documents. But it can move very quickly. We have a good amount of sponsors getting approved, and we're starting to see more and more of them come through the pipeline. We're going to be having a couple of filmings next week with some sponsors and with some other key partners, I would say, within the space. So I'm excited for that filming when you're back in town, Caloni. And thanks for being on, everybody.
Yeah. So, and again, well, not again, because I haven't said this yet, but there's a little QR code kind of above Christion's head there. And we're on multiple social media platforms. So follow us. Our marketing team is creating and distributing a lot of content right now, both on social media, and we have even more coming on the website. I mean, we have weekly newsletters that we're sending out to different groups of individuals, whether it's, accredited investors or whether it's to sponsors or industry leaders. And so if you're interested in being on our newsletter to stay up to date each week with what we're doing, there we go. It's already there. PREIshare.com/newsletters to join that list, and you'll get updates on what we're doing. And as we finish as we launch some of these other products and services that we have, such as our listing hub, it's still in development stages, but we're going to be launching the beta side of it here soon. I mean, we have so many other things that we're doing, and so if you want to stay up to date with what we're doing, go to PREIshare.com/newsletters. Okay, Christion, well, thanks for tuning in. We'll be back again. Well, we're filming next week, so hopefully we'll be back next week too, though, because we're filming on Thursday.
Yeah, I think what we're going to do so that we still do a live for you guys next week is we're going to give you a little sneak peek behind the scenes in the studio. So watch for that. We'll announce it early so you guys can plan for it as far as timing. But then, yeah, we're going to bring you in behind the scenes and let you see kind of what happens inside the studio.
Perfect. Okay. Thanks